Hi, I'm Emily Yee, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Florida, and I specialize in working with gifted teenagers and their families. And a lot of times, the gifted teenagers turn into young adults that are dealing with relationship issues, and I often hear similar themes talked about in session. So, I wanted to make a series of videos that address some of the relationship patterns that we're trying to break down in therapy, understand where they come from. Oftentimes, they are similar because my clients are so similar. And so, maybe you'll see yourself in some of this. Today, we're talking about why self abandonment isn't love. And self abandonment, I'm kind of referring to when you put yourself last, when you put the other person first and become the person that they want you to be, or kind of merge with who they are as a person. So we'll break this down a little bit, and I hope you find something good in it. So you might be more familiar with the term like a people pleaser. So somebody says, I'm a people pleaser. That just means that they like to keep everybody happy. They say yes a lot. They do it even when they don't want to. And you might have heard the term boundaries, which the appropriate definition for it is boundaries are where I end and another person begins. It's kind of the fence around my yard that says this stuff cannot come in and these things can't leave. And it's just a containment of who I am as a person. It's the things that I will and will not tolerate, the things that I will and will not do. It's very much so a definition of who I am and less of a demand of who you are. But if you are doing something or being something that I don't allow myself to be around, then it might impact you. So boundaries and people pleasing, it all comes up when we're talking about self-abandonment and loving ourselves in while we're in a relationship with someone else. So if you are someone who might define yourself as a shapeshifter or a chameleon, someone who merges with other people and really kind of tends to emulate the person that you're with, or if you know of somebody that comes to mind when you're hearing this, oftentimes that self abandonment isn't you loving the other person so much as it is you surviving, you trying to get your needs met, you trying to make sure that you are loved, which is that basic need of affection and security. And so we're going to kind of unpack how being a people pleaser or being someone who self-abandons or doesn't have boundaries is a survival skill that a lot of people have. And that's will help us if we can understand what is happening when we're doing that, then maybe we can meet that need in a different way. So a lot of times I'm working with gifted children, and gifted kids, somebody might look from the outside looking in, might tell a parent of a gifted child, wow, you're so lucky. Like, they have their stuff together. They know what they're doing. They get good grades. You don't have to stay on them about things. And the gifted child's always being praised for that, of wow, you're such an easy kid. And they learn through those early years of being an easy kid is a way to get affection. And you might have a gifted child and think, that doesn't describe my gifted child at all. But we all know, like, eventually there's a ceiling, there's a gap, a place where the gifted child can't just perform in and of themselves. They need skills. And oftentimes when that hits at maybe 25, or maybe for them it's 16 or 13 or 9, they've missed the season when everybody else was learning those skills. And so they're kind of left with this big gap in how to do life, executive functioning skills, because they've hit the point of challenge. And for everybody, it's different. But for most gifted kids, those early years, they are able to connect with adults. They're able to express themselves. They're able to, very much so. Sometimes that's a problem. But they are easier as young children, depending on learning differences and things like that. And so they get a lot of praise for being an easy person to be around. And during this season, 0 to 5 years, when we're really going through a boot camp of how to get love and security from others, gifted kids learn the language is, look, just be easy. Just be someone that is a pleaser. Just do what they're asking you to do and you will be praised. And so that becomes a problem as they get into teenage years, early adulthood, and life is more challenging. So it's not just natural to just be able to do it and not ever disappoint people. And then also, they might want to be something different than what their parents had asked them to do from the jump and struggle with disappointing people with their own personhood. And so a lot of times this is present in gifted adults, the people pleasing, we might call it masking. And it can be present across the lifespan and across all different intelligences and intensities also. But it's very common in the people that I work with. So the psychology behind this of why does overfunctioning and seeing what everybody needs and just doing it erode your sense of self, your identity, your personhood. And it's when you are constantly shifting in order to make other people happy, you're not exploring and identifying what you want and desire and need. And we're all unique individuals created very differently. And the things that make us feel fulfilled and feel natural to us are going to be different to each person. So if we're emulating what somebody else has laid out for us to do and told us is going to make us happy, and we just do that and then don't feel any fulfillment for that, but also don't know how to go out and figure out what does make us happy, what is something that we enjoy doing, or a way of being. Another part of the psychology of it is just the overexcitabilities of very intense, very gifted people. And so they're constantly looking for problems, looking for emotional shifts. If you have that that emotional overexcitability and you're feeling very deeply, you're able to sense other people's emotions. And so when you sense a shift in emotion, you adjust in order to control the other person's emotion and manage them. And you learn that that works, and so you do it. But at such a young age, you don't know the cost of all of that energy of managing and shifting everyone around you. And as you get older, if you're with healthy people outside of your own family unit where that became your role, is to manage and to be the middle person and to keep things going smoothly, to be the glue. If you're outside of that, other people don't want to be managed. They're going to resist your manipulation, and you're going to have to work harder and harder. And then you enter into a relationship, and either you're in a relationship with someone else who was in a family unit where they were used to being manipulated, and so they're fully willing to let you make the decisions for their life, which is going to end poorly, or you enter into a relationship with somebody who does not want to be manipulated and is going to resist that. And if you are only going to try harder instead of taking a look at what is this in me that wants to control them in order to feel safe, and that's something that is worth taking a look at. And again, is often present when you have somebody who is very sensitive in terms of they can read emotions, they can feel them, but they haven't developed the boundary of those emotions are not for me to control and they're not for me to bear. I can allow the other person to have their emotions and I can have my emotions, and I don't need to control theirs or make theirs better. So hopefully I've dropped enough hints of why this is problematic. But in a relationship where you are constantly aware of the other person's emotions and constantly either trying to manage their emotion to where you are 3 steps ahead, or you know how to calm them down, or you know what to do, you know how to be, or if you're trying to manipulate everything around them in order to make them feel a certain way, it gets harder and harder and harder. And then as you get older and there's more responsibilities and there's more people in your life, there's more people depending on you, if you still have that mindset of I can control things, I can make everyone happy, I can be just right to where everything is okay, it's going to lead to burnout. It's not something that you were meant to do. It's beyond the human capacity. We are limited in what we are able to do. We are not God. We're not able to kind of work people like marionettes and be healthy. And so when we're constantly shifting in order to keep everyone else around us regulated, we are also not being true to who we are in our own needs and desires and feelings, because we're having to push those down and suppress those in order to keep the people around us happy. And so leads to burnout. It leads to just a sense of, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I would do if I did have an hour to myself. I don't know what I enjoy. I don't know my sense of personhood outside of keeping everyone around me happy. And that's a place that a lot of people end up in when they come to therapy for the first time and sharing, I just don't even know what to do with myself and how else to deal with these feelings besides drugs, alcohol, sex, acting out in some way, isolating. And so we're working through trying to live life, trying things on to see if they fit you and if you enjoy them. And it's almost like going back to childhood and having a bunch of different experiences to see what's you. So if you're recognizing yourself in what I'm talking about, I want you to take baby steps. Baby steps are all we have towards health. And so baby step would be first noticing when you are suppressing your own needs and emotions and desires in order to be easier for the other person or to manage their happiness and emotions. And this can be so tricky. And an example, recent trip, there was an itinerary, things that were happening, and I had something that I wanted to do, and I mentioned it, and it was kind of brushed away, and I mentioned it again, and then I had a moment where it's like, okay, I can make a choice. I can either be the squeaky wheel, and potentially the other person's going to be upset with me, and I could be wrong about this being a good time. So that's like a big risk that I'm taking. Or I could just let it go and just decide it's not important to me and just be happy with where we were, and that's it. And neither of those things are wrong. It's just, if this is something that you feel like, oh, I probably should be working on that, which is true for me. I'm working on being a person, knowing what I enjoy and speaking up for it. Like, if it's going to be a problem, at least let it be a problem out loud, not just in my head. And so saying, I actually really do want to go do this thing. This is really important to me. And then we got to do it, and it was really great, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I spoke up for myself. So for you, it's like noticing when you are quieting yourself in order to avoid conflict or to avoid taking a risk or to avoid somebody else's emotions being bothered, and then trying to do a few safe, either no thank yous or I want this. And so you know who's safe and what are the babyest steps you can take. And I encourage you to take some small steps there, just to taste and see what is it like to ask for what I need, and notice, even if it's very uncomfortable. Oh, I was really uncomfortable when I asked for what I needed, or when I said a second time that I want that. I did not like that feeling, and they got upset, and I noticed that. And I don't think I want to do it again. That's okay. Just noticing it is the first step, and then sitting with that for a little bit. If you feel comfortable with journaling, I always feel like that is a helpful way to get things out of your brain onto paper, separate yourself from it a little bit, be able to organize it. And this would be a very baby step of admitting to yourself, what is something that I want this week that I'm afraid to ask for? And write that down. And then spend a few minutes writing down why you're afraid to ask for it. And so it's the babiest of baby steps, of what is even something that I want, and why would I in the past not voice this, and let yourself air out the words and the thoughts there that are usually just suppressed and pushed down so that you can make everybody else happy around you. In doing these exercises, you might have experiences where the people in your life do not want to do what you want to do. You might have experiences where they support you and say, absolutely, I want you to get your needs met. I want you to be happy. I want you to enjoy what we're doing. And you might have experiences where they join in and they love it too. And it's like, oh my gosh, thank you for having this idea and for asking us to do this. I would never have thought about it. And it brings this new depth and experience of life by you being a person leading, saying, this is what is, it sounds interesting to me. This is what I was created for. And then inviting somebody else into it. And so that's the final thought, is that choosing yourself doesn't push love away. It invites it in. And I hope that there might be stumbles along the way. There might be moments of pushing and then pulling back, one step forward, two step back, but that's part of it. And take your time. It doesn't have to be that you rush into showing up. You don't even know who you are when you're first starting. And so just encourage you to explore this, sit with it, and I hope that it's been helpful. If you would like more information, you can reach out to me. My email is emilykE@gmail.com, and my website is jacksonvillecreativetherapy.com. And I hope to hear from you, and I would love to talk.